I'm Joe Halco, your host, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Since 1958, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to high-quality services which promote healthy living and emotional well-being to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously and strive to provide a continuum of the highest quality services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. 2025 marks a milestone for NCSS Here for You, as it's the 20th year that we've produced shows that are airing monthly, which highlight the numerous services that are provided by NCSS. As we begin 2025, it's a time to look ahead to challenges facing NCSS while recognizing how the organization has had a positive impact on individuals and families. We'll hear first-person accounts from people who recently spoke at an NCSS legislative breakfast. This month's episode is titled, In Their Own Words. These powerful testimonies speak to the important services that NCSS and the Parent-Child Center of NCSS staff provide throughout the year. NCSS is dedicated to meeting people where they are, offering innovative, person-centered, and accessible services when they need them the most. This is the first of a two-part series that will conclude next month. To discuss the accomplishments and challenges facing NCSS in detail, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guest, Todd Bauman, the Executive Director of NCSS. Todd, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Joe. Good to be here.
So let's look at, I know you've got three key areas that are challenges that the organization is going to be facing starting in, well, it's not that it's just starting, but in 2025. So if you could kind of touch on those, that would be great.
So NCSS is the Community Mental Health Center for Franklin and Grand Isle counties. We have about 525 employees providing services to over 4,000 people a year directly in our own community. Primarily, we provide mental health and substance use programming, as well as supports for people with intellectual disabilities and developmental delays. When we go around and talk to people in the community, and we talk to our state partners, and we ask questions about what are some of the challenges that people are facing, there are certain themes that pop up. Three of those themes are law enforcement and homelessness, trying to find ways to partner with our law enforcement structures. Another one is early childhood services. Our services tend to be more reactive, waiting for someone to have a mental health problem, and then we intervene. People want us to be more proactive and intervene earlier to mitigate some of those challenges, mitigate some of those risks. And then the last one is just talking to our local schools. We've just seen this influx of a significant increase of our students and the mental health struggles that they're having. And schools are really looking for ways to partner with us to help bring additional expertise into the classrooms to help support those students so that the teachers can actually then focus on teaching.
Yeah, critically important. Now, to begin the In Their Own Words portion of our episode, let's listen to a statement that was read by Corporal Michael Fuller on behalf of St. Albans Police Chief Maurice Lamothe.
Lamothe has written a statement. He's St. Albans Police Officer, Police Department Chief, and we have one of his, Corporal Fuller, is going to come up and read that statement on his behalf.
So I'm Corporal Michael Fuller. I work with St. Albans PD. I work in the patrol division. I work day shift. I work a lot with Sam, and I do have a statement to read on behalf of Chief Lamothe, who can't be here today. But I'll just say, in working with Sam, I've seen the positives that this program has brought to the community of St. Albans firsthand. The Embedded Crisis Intervention Specialist Program is familiar to both the law enforcement agencies involved and the citizens of Franklin County who have seen the team's impact firsthand. This program has taken various forms over the years, whether through the Vermont State Police Barracks or the St. Albans Police Department. Over time, it has developed into a highly professional, cohesive, and collaborative effort designed to better serve individuals in crisis who have encountered law enforcement, Northwest Counseling and Support Services, or the hospital. The program's success stems from multiple factors, including each entity's ability to leverage their unique strengths, as well as the deep trust in their unified approach toward a shared goal. This teamwork extends from proactive community engagement to on-scene support and continues with thorough follow-up care for individuals in need. As a department leader, I am incredibly proud of this individual resource for both agency and our community. Thanks.
Thank you.
So that was some powerful testimony from the corporal. And Todd, for quite some time, NCSS has had these mental health clinicians embedded in law enforcement.
We are definitely lucky to have such strong partnerships with both of our state and our local law enforcement teams. A lot of communities don't have as rich of a partnership, and so we're definitely feeling lucky about that. We started these programs several years ago with an embedded clinician in our state law enforcement barracks. It went really well, and so we have just recently been able to expand our state program to 2 employees, two clinicians, which gives us expanded hours, expanded coverage. And then with our local law enforcement, with Chief Lamothe, we have 2 clinicians with them as well, which gives us expanded coverage at the local level. And what we hear from people when they do outreach is kind of our role. We help to de-escalate situations. We can bring a clinical perspective and help assess situations, make referrals as needed to facilitate other connections to other types of resources. And what we do hear from law enforcement a lot is it decreases the amount of time that they need to stay on site with that specific event because we step in and we take on some of that responsibility for them, so they can then move on to the next call that they're getting. Yeah. So it's a real efficiency. We think it enhances the quality and helps our community get connected to the resources that they need.
And it's one of those things too, Todd. It's the stories that will never need to be told that in many instances the NCSS mental health worker is able to, deal with the individual who placed the call. As opposed to it strictly being a law enforcement, event. We've
definitely seen a steady increase in the number of responses that we've partnered with. We actually ride with law enforcement as appropriate, as needed, depending on the nature of the call. And over the course of the years, we've seen a steady increase in the number of responses that we do bring to the community.
So I think, to the local community, they should feel really good about the fact that, and I don't think it's been quite a decade, but it's been quite a while since NCSS has been embedded in both the state and local police departments, which is a great thing for our local community. So what I'd like to do now is let's listen to another one of the individuals who spoke at the recent legislative breakfast, and her name is Carolina Chanette. And she talks about the importance of the HEART program. And the HEART program happens to be one of the programs that's offered through the Parent-Child Center of Northwestern Counseling and Support Services. So let's hear what Carolina had to say.
We have Carolina Chanette.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Nice and big. Oh, no, that's it. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm a little nervous, like public speaking. My name is Carolina Chanette, and it's a dream to be here today, not only to speak with our legislators, but also to speak to the staff here at NCSS. It's been my dream to speak on this program, the HEART program, which I will be talking about today, for a long time, because there's so little that I can give back to the heart program, and this is one of the ways that I can do that. And so I'm just so excited to be here and be able to share a little bit of my story with you all. The story of the heart program in my life is tied in with my family story. I'm originally from Colombia and was raised in Florida. I like to joke that I'm imported into Vermont by my husband, who's a Vermonter, and you can't get him out of the state, which is perfectly fine with me because Vermont is incredibly beautiful. So I settled here in Fairfax with my husband, and about a month into our marriage, we became pregnant with our first little girl. She's there, the blonde one, Mila Rose. And when she was born, I happened to go into the pediatrician's office, and I saw this little flyer about this program called the Heart Program. And so I just, called and reached out, and I had someone come and help me. And other people came and helped me with breastfeeding and all of these things, that a first-time mom needs. And although his parents do live here, I don't have any great amounts of extended family that are here in Vermont with me. My mom is in Florida, my sisters are throughout the country, and so I didn't really have a ton of just family relationships that could come and kind of pull things together. My mother-in-law is lovely, but mother-in-law jokes are there for a reason. So she wasn't as helpful as I wish she would have in some ways, although she is taking care of the kids right now, so God bless her for that. And so I started my journey with the Heart Program, and little did I know that I was going to be hit really hard with postpartum depression. And as I went deeper and deeper and deeper into this, hole, I was able to rely and lean on the young woman who was coming into my home to kind of help me pick up the pieces. And it's so silly because sometimes I think about it, it's just 1 hour a week that they come into my home to help me with various random tasks, or just the basics like taking a shower. If you've ever been there as a mom, as a stay-at-home mom, as a first, parent, first-time mom, you have a hard time just, showering, or finding time to shower, I should say. And so even just 1 hour a week seems like a small thing, but it has added up to a huge, huge deal in my life. Well, then comes 2020, right? Nothing happened in 2020, right? Yes, we had a huge pandemic, and I was pregnant with my second born right here, Miss Carolina, also named after me, Lena Francis. And we had so much fear in terms of the pandemic, but I was also pregnant. So most of it, interventions, vaccines, whatever it wasn't something that I was considering because I didn't know how it would affect my baby. And so there was just a whole nother layer of fear. And then on May 27th of 2020, we had a huge fire. And we have a home, and then there's a garage, and there's another home next to us, and the home next to us completely burnt out. It burned through the garage that was in the middle and almost destroyed our whole home. But it did cause a lot of fire damage, and we had to move out and rebuild in 2020. And so that was another layer. And let me tell you, when I moved out, for 4 months to have my baby, to live in a safe place, this was in Colchester, and Colchester is outside of Franklin County. So I got nothing from NCSS, which really broke my heart because I really needed that help and I needed that support. And so for whoever's listening can do something about it, Chittenden County needs something too. Because what the Heart Program and what NCSS has done for my family in Franklin County is a huge deal. And it just, the resources weren't available to me because I was in Chittenden. So that was a hard lesson to learn. And so eventually we came back, was able to, and we were able to rebuild and refurbish our home. And long story short, I ended up into a deeper, even deeper depression. I've been struggling a lot with medication, and I ended up going to the emergency room for a mental panic attack, mental breakdown, and I couldn't go into a facility or anything like that because at that time there were so many people that were suffering through something like that they just had no space. And so I came back home. I wasn't ready to be home, but I came back home. That was the only choice that I had. And I had the people at the HEART program share with me resources that were available to the community. And they say, you don't have to be a stay-at-home mom right now. You can put your kids in daycare. And it's not something that was ideal to me or my husband, but I said, yes, I need that break. I'm drowning, I need that break. And so they helped me fill out all the paperwork and apply for a grant or whatever it was called so that my kids could be put into daycare for some time so I can try and recover and regain my strength and understand my options for medication and therapy and all of those things. And that's around the time that I also started seeing a therapist through the HEART program, and they come to your home. I couldn't believe it. I said, you're gonna come to my house to hear me talk right now? That sounds like a dream. I don't have to change from my pajamas. I could just wear sweatpants. I don't have to get everybody in the car to then go. And at that point, I was already pregnant with my third cute little boy right there. And so they were able to start that therapy with me, and they have been there ever since. So my latest acquisition is Miss Emma Catherine. She's the little baby. She's about 6 months now. And the HEART program has been there for me, for 6 years now, on and off. I joke and I tell them I'm gonna, have another baby just so they can keep coming. I was listening to an author, Timothy Carner, and he wrote this book on Family Unfriendly, how our culture made raising kids much harder than it needs to be. And one of the things that he found that surprised him was not that people, when they were considering having a second child, not that people needed more money for daycare, but that people were thinking about support, what kind of support they had. And of course, family support is at the top, but if we don't have that, you look into your community. You look into your church or other types of groups, and NCSS and the HEART program for me has been that other type of group as well. And so I just want to thank them for all they have done, for helping me raise these beautiful kids, and for being my support in a time of great need over and over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Carol?
So it really is so great, the story Carolina had to tell. I think it's one of those situations that, here again, for an NCSS individual to try to express all of that would be, oh, that's good, but does that really happen? And I think that her story and, all the various scenarios that she's been through, and there's been some trauma there, starting with the postpartum depression and working its way through for her and her family, and the supports that she's received from our organization.
We're definitely so grateful for Carolina to share her story and have the courage to stand up and share her story. I do think, I think it makes us better because we can hear her experience and then adapt our programming to better meet the needs of the community. But also I think by her sharing her story, it makes others who might be hesitant to step up and access services more comfortable accessing those services. I am really proud of the fact that we are a parent-child center. That's unique.
Yes.
Across the state, that we're the only community mental health center that is also a parent-child center. And one of the things that allows us to do is it allows us to think more proactively, more preventatively, whereas a lot of times our services are geared towards after someone has an issue, they then will call and access the services they need, get the help that they need. Being a parent-child center, I think it allows us to just have a lens that's more proactive. And so we try to identify people that might have some risk factors that make them more likely to develop an issue down the road. And if we can intervene early, we can maybe mitigate the need for higher level services later. And with Carolina, that's part of her story was we were able to get in there and support her right in the home. And that's another thing for families that might be struggling with transportation, being able to access services. We go directly into the home to provide those supports right there. And that's been a real positive for a lot of families accessing care.
And Todd, I think that's one of those other situations is if you walk down the street in St. Albans and you ask someone about NCSS and what do they do, primarily you're probably going to get the answer of, we do outpatient work, crisis and medication and psychiatry, and that's it. Not to say that we don't do that. Certainly the organization does do all those things. But the amazing thing is that over 90% of the services that are provided are not within the four walls of NCSS buildings. They are in the community where people are at.
These are some stats that I always take a peek at. And recently when I did look at that, it was 92% of all the services that we do take place in the home, in the community, someplace other than our buildings. And I do think that allows families to have greater access to the services that they need.
And to your point about the Parent-Child Center being under the umbrella of the designated agency here, and when you just think through what that means from a standpoint of being able to provide even more services to families seamlessly without having to work with yet another partner. And again, all of our programs do not work in a vacuum. I mean, we partner with organizations of all types, but I just think that when you're talking about young families and their children, the ability to offer more services without having to bring in another organization is a plus and more seamless.
It's just easier for families when we take on some of that burden of coordinating all of those services for people. It just makes it easier for families to then have a comprehensive treatment plan or a comprehensive plan of care that incorporates all of their needs holistically in one place so they don't have to go to all these different places.
Yeah. And speaking of being community-based, the schools. NCSS has been embedded in many of our local schools for decades. And what we're going to do next is we're going to hear from Amy Irish, who is the program manager for our school-based services, and hear what she has to say about working at NCSS and providing services to schools.
For me, I grew up in a family that really valued giving back to your community. I like working at NCSS because my personal values line up with the professional values of the agency. The school-based services, we see on a daily basis our ability to impact kids in accessing their education. I think that working at NCSS is priceless. We make a difference in the lives of kids. I really want people to come here. I love what I do here, and I definitely feel connected here in a way that I'm not sure I would at another place.
So that was very powerful, Amy's message. The partnering of NCSS with schools, Todd, and the whole win-win for the student, the school, and our organization to be able to provide the services that are necessary right there in that atmosphere are so important.
We definitely see our school partnerships as just a cornerstone of our agency. It's actually some of our largest programming is our school-based programs. And I totally agree that being able to partner with schools and bring expertise directly into the classroom so that students can remain in the classroom successfully is really just the win for all of us. And I'll tell you, my wife is a second grade teacher as well. So I hear stories from her about how how she wants to teach, but sometimes she gets pulled into other directions
Yeah.
because of behavioral type of things. And our being present there in the school to provide that level of support to those kids that might have that level of need for their emotional support allows the teacher to then teach. And I think that partnership is just a win for the entire classroom as well as the staff. Take some of the pressure off of the staff a little bit when we can step in and provide that higher level of support, that extra support that we know some kids need.
And, you know, it goes without saying, this has become much more predominant since the pandemic. That the fact of having staff there that can assist, whether clinically, whether behaviorally, whatever the case might be, the pandemic has exacerbated everything, and it's made it much more difficult for teachers to do, as you say, what they're there for, which is to teach.
We feel really good about the programs that we have, but we're also very aware that times change. And so Bill Kimball and I, the superintendent of Maple Run, we just met last week, and we were talking a little bit about how might we come together and partner in a different way to respond to the needs that kids might have today that might look a little different from the needs that they had before. And so, you know, just again, that partnership, that openness to have those conversations to put together something that does have an impact on the students as well as the staff, I think is just really important.
Yeah, without question. So, you know, when we look at some of the challenges, though, I always try to look at it that from the school standpoint, because we have so many supports that are offered to the individuals who we have sitting in a educational situation that can help support what they're doing. But those individuals may be back elsewhere in other departments at NCSS. The value that brings that people don't really see on the surface.
We definitely see some of our staff that are embedded directly in schools. They do act as a liaison or as a bridge to the broader agency, the broader range of services that we have. And sometimes those are home, they're in the home where we will go out and help families support them directly in their home, or the community, or the office as well. But our embedded clinicians that are embedded in the schools, they do act as a bridge connecting families to additional resources that they might benefit from.
Yeah, I think, you know, from a standpoint of dealing with the community and outreach and children, that the programs that NCSS provides to schools are critically important, critically important. Well, our time is up for this episode. I want to thank my guest, Todd Bauman, for sharing his insights on past accomplishments and future challenges facing NCSS. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. You can learn more about NCSS and all of their programs and services by logging on to ncssinc.org. I'm Joe Halco, and I'll be back next month with Todd Bauman as we continue our conversation in part 2 of In Their Own Words on NCSS, Here for You.